From the Sky Satellite Network, this is Sky Sports 2.
Welcome to Water Sports World, where we kick off our aquatic adventures this week on a trip quite unlike any other. And if the action doesn't take your breath away, the scenery certainly will. Then from the Highlands, we're off to the Lowlands, from Scotland to the Netherlands, in search of something a little more sedate. Or is it? A float in Port Zeeland with the J22s. And finally, a burst of something very vibrant, from Nottingham in England. Stand by for all the thrills and spills on the latest round of the Jet Sport Tour. But first, an annual event with a very special appeal. Powerboating's equivalent of car rallying, they say. Last week in Water Sports World, we began our report on the world's biggest international rib Grand Prix. This week, we're back in very bonny Scotland once again to catch up with the final chase around the beautiful coastline of Argyll and the islands that form the final leg of one of Europe's most gruelling events. They're here from Barbados to Iceland to Switzerland, as well as the UK. A testimony to the event, as Mike Southwood explains.
We ran this event the first time in 1993. The inshore phase out of Helensburgh and the offshore phase out of Crewhaven. We had some very, very good feedback from the competitors and entries, and we felt that this year we would have more. Therefore, we couldn't run it out of Crewhaven because the place just wasn't big enough to accommodate the people. The other thing was that we wanted to move the venue for the inshore phase out of Helensburgh to open up a new area for the racers to use. So the inshore phase this year, we ran out of Tarbert, East Loch Tarbert on Loch Fyne, and a more perfect setting you couldn't find. It's been absolutely tremendous. The locals have participated, there's been parties every night, all the hotels have helped out, the garages helped out, we've had some terrific support.
So, with the three race inshore phases well behind them and the two gruelling offshore legs, it's time for the competitors to prepare for the final showdown to decide who will eventually lift that gold cup. Peter Zura from Switzerland is amongst the many continentals. Jean-Pierre Warou from Belgium, he's been here before and knows what these conditions are likely to bring. So many have already fallen by the wayside, proving this event is all about stamina and endurance rather than just engine performance. Time then for a quick recap of the front runners. The team from Gibraltar, who won the event 2 years ago, unfortunately this time sidelined with one too many propeller breakages. This year's surprise winner of the first inshore race, as well as the second offshore race, Mike Deacon in the aptly named Hot Lemon. And surprising everyone with his performance, winner of the inshore section, John Lindsay in his no-frills, all-action Phantom. In the offshore section, though, not surprisingly, it's the Royal Marines, led by Sergeant Chris Bryan, who have been setting the pace at the front of the field. And always pushing the limits, Miles Jennings from Devon, with this year's development craft, perhaps a little out of its depth in the majority of the conditions this year, but watch out for 96. The man who knows all about the conditions, Scotland's Gordon Turner, challenging for Formula One honours at the front of the field. And challenging John Lindsay for overall Formula 2 honours, Alan Crowe and Herbert Percy. And also expected to do well in Formula 2, Mike Armitage, the man who's been here every year, and a good feel for what the conditions are like.
The top speed we achieved yesterday was 61 miles an hour, but off Dura and gear, we were down to, on the GPS, 7 knots. And at one point, going backwards, It was just absolutely horrendous. I don't particularly like being out in those conditions, and I don't want to go out again in those conditions. But it certainly tests the person and tests the breed. It's not about rib racing. It's not about all-out speed. It's about tactics. It's about boat preparation, as you probably worked out from the boats that start and the boats that finish. Everybody stands a chance of winning. It's still completely open. The leader on handicap's changed 3 times. And with us entering the fray again after repairing the engine, we certainly changed the point system again last night.
Yeah.
So we're looking forward to a good day.
Well, with that and at times dramatic scene setter, everyone's in the same mood and ready for some excellent racing. And the glorious sunshine that Argyll and the islands seem to have laid on, especially for the final race, to decide who will lift that gold cup. And you have to say, it really is spectacular here. Today's final run then starts with a quick loop around the island of Carrera and Oban, then away up the coast to negotiate the narrow channels around the north of Lismore Island, before making their way back across probably more choppier water, up through the Sound of Mull to the halfway turn at Tobermory. Then it's head for home as fast as the engines and bravery will allow, back to the finish at Oban. Just over 60 nautical miles to negotiate then, and everyone's keen to get an early start while the conditions suit them. Up to the rolling start they go, with Gordon Turner and the Marines there, making sure they're near the front, as is John Lindsay. So that's the official off, and the fleet, for the last time on this year's event, stream over the start line and into Carrera Sound. The boats will run this loop first. John Lindsay and Mike Deacon battling for 3rd and 4th. But at the turning point at the bottom of the loop, it's the Marines and Gordon Turner who took the early decision to push out in front. Yep, they'll remain like that through the duration, I would think. 2 very tightly matched crews. Well, that's Mike Deacon and John Lindsay, followed by Mike Armitage. There, as the boats head back up the Sound. But it's the Marines who head out to the open waters in the lead, leaving Oban behind them. And should be followed by Gordon Turner. Yes, there he is. An awful lot of determination in that boat. And the rest of the pack then, closing down on them. It's going to be John Lindsay, who's the 3rd boat out of the Sound, and on his way to a remarkable performance in the little boat. Behind him at this stage, Mike Deacon, well, probably taking it easy here, knowing the bigger boat will have an advantage in the choppy conditions ahead. And choppy conditions it is as we follow Gordon Turner up the coastline. His Osprey XR24, which has had numerous developments for this kind of racing. Notice the console in the front, almost rally car seats, suspension on them that Gordon actually helped to develop. And this sport really has stepped up a gear in the last couple of years. They're prepared now to run in all conditions. Now they have the kit to do it. Even so, not very comfortable. Back with Mike Deacon in the distinctive hot lemon, starting to make his way up to catch up the front runners, so that was definitely his game plan. Ahead of him now, the wake of Mike Armitage. Well, Deacon's 28-foot BWM Rapier running an inboard diesel configuration, which has certainly proved very effective in all conditions this week. Just checking his map and compass heading there. Navigation, a great part of this sport. Follow the leader is not the game plan. But up front is Mike Armitage in a Formula 2 Osprey, who's moved up to challenge the Osprey of Gordon Turner. Great friends, great rivals on this occasion. Armitage and navigator Peter Kenrick going for the inline configuration as they move up towards the rocky channels and the unpredictable depths around the north of Lismore. As we get to Lismore then, Mike Armitage leaves Gordon Turner and goes for the riskier inside channel. And Turner with no alternative really but to follow him through the channel. Well, that's a gamble. Not easy water here. Oh, but it's paid off. To their great delight, I'm sure, and surprise, the leaders there. The Marines took the long, safe route around the top of the island, and that's cost them dearly. Mike Armitage almost can't believe it. He looks across twice. And yes, definitely in the lead here. The gamble's paid off for him. And with Gordon Turner in his wake, they challenge the Marines. The rest of the fleet now following Armitage's gamble and going for that shallow water, hoping they don't catch any sandbanks or rocks. Well, all eyes up front, though. Navy boys just nudging ahead. Armitage in the closing miles now needs another trick up his sleeve. But has he got one? That action plus the conclusion of the World Finals of the J22s and the best action from the latest round of the Jet Sport Tour. All coming up after this. Welcome back to the International Rib Grand Prix around the Argyll and the Islands and the stunning west coast of Scotland. Well, as the fleet now heads towards Tobermory, it's the Marines who thought they had it all their own way early on, taking a bit of a setback. As Mike Armitage gambled, took a shortcut, now challenges for the lead. On board with the Marines, though, there seems to be new determination to re-establish that lead. Sergeant Chris Bryan on the wheel, asking for more power. And certainly this new development BWM Rapier 28-foot with two 200-horsepower Mercuries on the back seems well suited to these conditions. As we see there from the wide shot, completely balanced, even with 4 on board. Running very fast and flat indeed. And back into the lead. Well, Mike Armitage and Gordon Turner haven't thrown in the towel yet. Another smart move here on the inside of the course, this time searching for calmer waters. And here the Marines too, keeping it to the centre of the channel, and still with that advantage. And taking a look further back, going up the Sound of Mull, Michael Deacon still waiting his cue. In the wings all week, his boat does seem a little down on power today. Again, though, running very smoothly. Maybe he's waiting for the other hard charges to break down. Certainly looks confident enough. Boat running absolutely perfectly there. Slight change of direction. Oh, well, maybe those tactics are paying off. This is Gordon Turner. He's stopped with some sort of engine problem, that's for sure. Covers off. And co-driver Stuart Allen looking fed up. And so he should be. And talking of hard chargers, here comes John Lindsay with his son, John Jr. This is a boat, remember, they picked up for just £300. None of the budgets of the factory-back teams here. And a good result today could see them well up on the leaderboard. This is the man they've got their sights on, Mike Deacon. And you can see they're catching him. That's Mike Deacon's wash there. So this really is a tough little performance. No suspension, no seats, so not much comfort, that's for sure, in this boat. Now then, as they get into the choppier waters up the Sound of Mull, it's Mike Deacon who's having to put on the speed, trying to catch those front runners. This is where he hopes the longer boat is going to have the advantage. Again, with the diesel engine, able to plough through these waves. But in Formula 2, it's Mike Armitage all the way, turning the mark at Tobermory. The Marines have already gone through. They certainly lead Formula 1. And with Gordon Turner out of the way, Mike Armitage away on his own. Around the mark now, heading for home at the end of an event that's had so many tremendous images. And you have to say, there are a few motorised water sports anywhere in the world that enjoy scenery like this, and even less with such a spirit of adventure. And when one man got there, he certainly knew he'd had a tough day.
We had a pretty bad start. We had the GPS and the bilge pump wire burn out on us, so we had plenty of smoke at the beginning of the race, which was a little bit worrying. Then we took off up Lismore. The Marines obviously well out in front. Gordon, we were keeping pace with Gordon, even though he's in a different class than us. He's in Formula 1. We run Formula 2. When we got to top of Lismore, we really couldn't decide which channel to take, whether we should be on the outside of the little island off the top of Lismore. And Gordon was leaning on us quite close, so at the last minute we decided just to cut inside. It was touch and go. We could see the bottom, but we managed to get through. Gordon followed us, and I believe the rest of the pack. From there on, we just went for the lee shore on the far side of the mainland. Went up the inside the Sound on the mainland side, and when we cut across, we waved to both ferries. Into Tobermory, the sun came out, fabulous racing conditions, just enough chop to make it interesting. And the run back down was really textbook. The Marines reasonably well in front. They weren't making any ground on us, but they had a good race, but so they should.